Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for the day comes from Amar, and it is, aren't you worried about having few guns and gun customization in the next big Battlefield game? This is the biggest reason why I was not expecting to have a World War I Battlefield game. The era was really interesting, there was a lot going on, but if you look at the technology that was available to them, there wasn't a lot of variety. If you were in the trenches, more often than not, you were using a bolt-action rifle. There were, of course, a couple of exceptions here and there, but the majority of the soldiers were using those weapons because they could be mass-produced, and that was just the technology that they had at their fingertips. And so I can absolutely see why you might be a little worried that there isn't going to be enough weapon variety. I would hate if this turned into another Star Wars Battlefront where there were so few guns to choose from that people got bored because there wasn't enough guns to keep people's attention. I don't think that's going to be a problem, though. DICE has said on numerous occasions that while they want to make sure that this is an authentic World War I game, they want to ensure that everything in there is authentic, but they're not going for all-out realism. They realize that this is a video game and that it should be fun. And so while realistically, most people were using bolt-action rifles and a couple of automatic weapons here and there, the vast majority of it was bolt-action, but they're going to allow themselves the creative license and freedom to say, hey, these submachine guns maybe weren't used all that often, maybe some of them were only in development and came out at the very end of World War I, but we're going to add that into the game because, hey, we want more weapon variety. I have a suspicion that that's going to be the case. This is actually something that they even do in the more recent Battlefield games. You know all those crazy amount of weapons that we have? A lot of them don't see action at all, or some of them were only just in development. They were simply prototypes. The XM8 assault rifle that everyone loved back in Bad Company 2 was a prototype. It never saw the light of day in combat, or at least I don't believe so. The jackhammer shotgun that is very iconic in video games and movies, only 3 were made. The guy that created it wasn't able to sell the patent, and so it just died. It's seen all over in video games, we've even seen it in Battlefield, but it never saw the light of day in actual combats. And while I do realize that I am cherry picking here, this should just give you a good idea that even the more recent Battlefield games, the reason why we do have the weapon variety that we have is that they allow themselves to be, hey, maybe the AUG isn't used all that often, maybe the Ace-23 isn't something that we would see a US soldier using, but it's a gun that has been created, so let's add it into the game. And so all in all, I wouldn't be too worried about the weapon variety. Who knows, maybe I'm completely off base here and there's only going to be 9 guns and it's going to be the worst thing ever, but I would be very, very surprised if that was the case, but of course I have been very wrong before, and so who knows at this point. The next question comes from Brett, and it is, what do you think about Tachanka having a shield at the end of his turret, much like we have right now with Blackbeard? You would not believe how many questions I get regarding Tachanka. I know I talk about this guy all the time, but it's insane how many of you ask questions that are very similar to this. And it's probably for good reason. Tachanka, even though he got a bit of an upgrade in this most recent patch, he's still fairly lackluster. It's nice being able to get in and out of your turret quickly. That's a nice upgrade. You don't leave yourself as vulnerable if the enemy realizes where you're at. And it's also nice that you can place it down in more locations, but his biggest weakness and the biggest drawback is the fact that he just simply can't win firefights. The peeker's advantage is that substantial in this game, and as soon as the enemy knows where you are, they're going to be able to round the corner, line a headshot off on you, and unless you have the most insane reflexes, there's no way that you're coming out of it alive. And so one way of working around this, which you've recommended, is, well, why not just give him a little shield that protects him from headshots? That would be flawless. That way, if an enemy wants to kill him, either they're gonna have to do body damage, which is gonna take a long time because he has 3 armor, or they're gonna have to flank him, much like you would do with Blackbeard, and take him out that way. There's a lot of advantages to this type of system. The reason why I like this idea is that I truly do believe that if it was implemented correctly, that it would finally make him a viable and effective operator, at least on a couple of maps. This guy should be the best camper on defense. He's stationary, and there should be some really big benefits for having such a large drawback there. The only issue that I have with this is, are we creating another monster like what we have right now with Blackbeard? If you tell your teammates to place down some shields around your turret, how are the enemy going to be able to take you out? The shield will block the body damage, and then the shield on your turret will be able to block the headshots, and so now you become immortal. And so if you're on top of the objective, as you should be, there's no way they're going to be able to reliably get into that objective. Especially if you have a Jaeger that's going to snipe those grenades that were for you. It's going to be really, really hard for the offensive team to establish a front line and get anywhere near that objective. And so that's my biggest worry if they did decide to go down this path. It's still very intriguing. I would kind of like them to explore it. Maybe they're already exploring it right now, and that's one of the reasons why they haven't implemented it already, because while I really do want this guy to be effective, I want him to finally be a viable pick in Rainbow Six Siege, I don't know if this is pushing things too far. One way they could balance it out, much like I think they should do with Blackbeard, is that his shield should break after a couple of bullets. Maybe 10 bullets maximum is all it takes to shatter that shield, and then he becomes vulnerable. That would be another way of handling it. The next question comes from Connor, and it is, what are your thoughts on Blizzard permanently banning cheaters on Overwatch compared to other games such as The Division and Rainbow Six Siege? Yeah, I love the fact that Blizzard is taking a firm stance on cheaters, because cheaters can absolutely ruin a multiplayer-only game, which of course is what they've created. Rainbow Six Siege is a very good example of this. I may have exaggerated that it's been ruined by hacking, because I don't think that's the case. I play basically every day. I don't think hacking is as big of a problem as some people make it out to be, but it is an issue because people just do not have faith in the anti-cheat system. When you have people constantly accusing others of hacking because they don't trust that the anti-cheat system is working, you have a really big issue. To give you a good example of this, when the Dustline DLC released, I was playing Valkyrie all day and I was constantly getting accused of wall hacking basically every other round. On their end, they couldn't fathom how I knew where everyone was located. On their end, what they saw was me round the corner and I knew exactly where each and every single one of them were. Of course, that's because I was using the cameras about half a second later, but they didn't know that. And so I think the reason why they were constantly calling me a hacker, even though I'm clearly not, is because they have this seed of doubt in their mind because they see other real hackers getting away with it constantly. And so it's for this very reason why I'm really happy to see that Blizzard is taking such a firm stance on hackers. I never wanted to get to the point where people are constantly questioning if people are being suspicious. That's toxic, it's never good for the community, and so hopefully Blizzard is going to be able to deliver on this promise. Maybe their anti-cheat is just as bad as what we see in other video games like The Division and Rainbow Six Siege, but it is a great step in the right direction, and hopefully they're going to be able to follow through with their promise. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.